My Nerd World.
Where's the revolution? Come on, people, you're letting me down. Where's the revolution? Come on, people, you're letting me down.
Welcome, Depeche Mode fans, to episode 7 of the My Nerd World Depeche Mode, the podcast. I am your host, John Justice. Up front, I just want to say thank you so much for downloading the podcast. As I've mentioned on previous shows, I do this because of and out of my love for this band. And this is something that I had decided to do a while ago, and had kind of waited until we got closer to the release of the new material. And as we head into episode 7 this week, just the downloads are more than I could have imagined. And look, that's not coming from a place where, you know, I'm not doing advertising yet on the podcast. I might eventually. This was just me wanting to share my love of this band and what it's meant to me in my, you know, I'm 44 years old and for decades now, and was just really hopeful that other fans would find it and would enjoy it as much as I do recording it. And you guys are. And I just want to say thank you so much. I hope that you're really getting a lot out of it. It is so much fun and so exciting to be a Depeche Mode fan right now, especially with the release of this just amazing new album. For the sake of argument, we'll call it an album. I know we debated this on the last podcast, but, you know, CD, album, whatever. I love this. I really love this record. And the more I listen to it, the more I enjoy it. To me, this goes back to and has captured what really that height of, in my opinion, that height of their popularity, what drew me to this band, what made them special. They really put together and made something unique and different. It's still Depeche Mode, but it in my opinion finally took that next step. You know, I do like the other records that came before it. Don't misunderstand. I liked Exciter. I like Playing the Angel. I like Sounds of the Universe a lot. In retrospect, after hearing Spirit, Delta Machine has been knocked down a few notches in my book. But this is really the band not returning to its roots, but finding something to grab onto to create something different and special. And that's kind of what they did back in the Trilogy era, and I'm calling it the Trilogy era of Music for the Masses, Violator, and Songs of Faith and Devotion. You know, that to me was at the height of their creativity, obviously before Alan left. And since then, the albums have been good, but you know, as these guys, as Martin and Dave and Andy get older, your opinions on things change, the things that push you and motivate you change, your relationships change, and the thing that's made Depeche Mode always special is how ambiguous, as I've said, the lyrics are, but how meaningful they are and how genuine they are. And with the thematic elements of Spirit, I believe they've tapped back into something again. And musically, it's astounding. So on the show this week, I'm going to tell you my horrible story of the situation that I'm currently in right now. Horrible on a relative scale to being a massive Depeche Mode fan, not on a larger scale, right? My circumstances at the moment, which is really bumming me out. Plus, we're going to go through the first half of the album. I've gone and grabbed snippets, my favorite portions of the first 6 tracks off of Spirit, and I'm just going to go song by song and talk a bit about it. I have something special towards the end. I do work in radio. I'm a full-time talk show host here in Minneapolis, Minnesota, on TwinCitiesNewsTalk.com. I host a Monday through Friday talk show, Justice and Drew, along with our producer, Sam. I've been doing radio for 20 years, and I have a bit of production skill. Not great, but I know how to edit, and done a lot of production work in the past. So I took what is arguably my favorite song on the record, and I slapped together a remix. because I want to talk a bit about the remixes that are on the deluxe edition of the release. I slapped together a remix and thought I'd share it with you. And I like it. And really, I may do more because I really do I really enjoy doing remixes. I don't do them very often. It's a matter of just having the time to sit down and really get into a track and really spend the time to work it and rework it. I've done it in the past. Maybe I'll share some of those remixes that I've done in the past. For those that remember, during the Exciter era, the band and the record label actually put out all of the different components to I Feel Loved, and it had I believe they had a remix contest. I didn't take part in the contest, but I did grab the tracks and rebuilt the song from scratch. So maybe in one of the upcoming podcasts, I'll share that with you. So at the end of the podcast, I will share you my remix of one of the tracks off of Spirit. So that's going to take up the core of this week's show. I do want to start first by telling you my situation right now. So I mentioned in the other podcast, I do not have tickets to any of the live shows yet. They're not playing in Minneapolis. The closest they are playing is in Chicago on August, and I can't get down there on a Wednesday night because of my work commitments. So I'm still looking at Vegas or Los Angeles, but I'm going to have to look at getting tickets down the road. But as you know, the ticket on sale, they did this pre-sale for fans, and you can move your way up in line if you fulfilled some of the criteria, posting on Twitter and Facebook. And one of the ways you could move yourself up in line to get better tickets was purchasing the album online. Now, normally, I go out physically to a store and I buy a copy. That's been my tradition. Not since 1988. Yes, since 88. I have gone and purchased and had in my hands a physical copy of the brand new release of every single album since 1988. I was thinking, all right, you know what? It's worth it to order it online. I don't do a lot of online shopping. I like going out and looking for things. I like going out and getting a physical copy. And so I decided, you know what, I'll go ahead and I'll order it online and I'll have it mailed to me and I won't have to go searching for it here in Minneapolis. Not that that would be hard to do, right? So Thursday rolls around. Well, I got an email on Wednesday saying, hey, your item had been shipped. And I figured, great, when I get home from work, I had a long day on Friday. When I get home from work, it's Saturday right now when I'm recording this, I'll be able to, that'll be waiting for me when I get home so I can enjoy my bottle of wine and listen to the new album. I mean, I'd already have a copy of it, as we've talked about, obviously, and it's out digitally now. But I want to be able to have the physical copy. I want to listen to the CD, really just want to sit down with it, right? So my wife, Melinda, calls me while I'm out doing a work event after the show, and it turns out that the album's not going to be released to me. It's not coming to my house until Wednesday. Yeah, I'm a little bit bummed out. So the day has come and gone. Too late now, but this is the first time since 1988 that I haven't had a physical copy of the record in my hand. And it is what it is. I like having, I don't have to tell you, you want to have a physical copy. So I'm half tempted. We're going to head out here when I'm done recording the podcast. We're got to go run some errands. I'm half tempted to just purchase a copy while I'm out and about. I know I'll have two, but I can always give one to a friend. I want that physical copy. So it's a bit of a bummer though, because to me, this is a big deal. If you're a Depeche Mode fan, this release is a really, really big deal. This is their best work, in my opinion, since Songs of Faith and Devotion. And the fact that I don't have any tickets to a concert and I don't have a physical copy of the album in my hand is bumming me out a little bit. But you know what I do have? I do have you, and I do have this podcast. All right, so let's get back into the album a bit. One of the things that kind of stuck out to me was this album deviates from some of the things that the band has done for so many years. And I guess Delta Machine did a little bit, but there's no instrumentals on the album. Closing with a Martin Gore track. If you strip away the comparisons, what I'm trying to say is, if you strip away the comparisons, because at least in my opinion, when Alan left the band, in June of 94. Or was it 95? I think it was June of 94. When Alan left the band, I remember seeing the press release. I think I still have it, actually. I had a copy of the press release that the label put out when he left. When Alan went and left the band, there was such a huge question mark. I mean, especially since we'd just gone through Dave and his heroin overdose and all of that. There was just such a massive question mark on what was going to happen with the band. And when that happened, those questions that popped up that didn't really exist prior to that. So if Dave hadn't gone through his drug problems, and if Alan hadn't left the band, and they had continued making records, you'd have some discussion about how long, the band would stay together, but that would occur more on a very natural level. Nobody's looking at least, and I'm not a Coldplay fan, but if you take Coldplay, for example, I don't think anybody's looking at Coldplay wondering, I wonder how long they're going to break up and all these questions about it. Apart from the normal, I wonder how long Coldplay will continue to make records, right? So if Alan hadn't left and Dave hadn't had his drug problems, I think they would have continued making records, and we would just have that sort of natural, I wonder how long the band will stay together. But because Alan left, and because Dave had those drug problems, we had we had way more questions. This was a band at the height of its popularity that had lost a very key component during its most successful time at the height of its popularity. And its lead singer, who without Dave, you can't really have Depeche. Arguably, we won't get into that now, but arguably you can't really have without Martin and Dave. It's Martin and Dave. You can't have one without the other. Without Dave, that's it. And so all of these questions, as for me as a fan, kind of came rushing in. What are they going to do? What's the album going to sound like? Can they continue? Is Dave going to get better? And in my opinion, those questions stuck. And we've continued, and I won't speak for you, but I know for me, and if you want to email me your thoughts, feel free, talkshownerd@gmail.com. I do have some emails that we're going to be sharing towards the end of the podcast this week. But, for me, I've continued to ask those questions at every release, and continued to wonder what the next album is going to sound like. And more specifically, I'm dancing around the issue here. More specifically, we compare all the albums now. It's not that we didn't before, but because of all those ancillary reasons, when an album comes out and you go to the message board, you go to depeche-mode.com and you go to the home message board and you read the comments. And this isn't a fault thing. It's just a natural thing that we all do. We go and we question and we compare all the albums, side by side. And I think it takes away a bit because you put in like preconceived notions of what it is you want to hear. I'm getting to a point, and my point is that if you strip away all the comparisons, if you take this album and just look at it from a singular release, get rid of all the preconceived notions, get rid of the idea that it's going to sound like anything, just for a moment. I mean, I've done this on the podcast, right? I mean, this is what we do. There's nothing wrong with it. But if you do that, to me, you really begin to see that the band has done something special on its own merit, by itself. Sure, there are elements that harken back to other eras and songs that the band has done, but if you take away the comparison part of it, they've just put out an amazing piece of content, creative content. And this is the first album in a long time where there's only one track right now that I've been skipping, and it's Poor Man. That's the only one. And I'm pretty sure that I will come full circle on that one too. I have a couple of playlists where I've put together a handful of tracks to kind of make a mini EP depending on when I'm driving. But I'm in that mode right now, and I don't know if you get like this, but I know that I do. I'm in that mode right now where I can't listen to anything else. I don't want to listen to anything else. All I want to do is listen to I almost feel like I'm betraying myself if I don't keep listening to Spirit because I'm enjoying it so much. I think yesterday, and I've had it now for a couple of weeks, and obviously have a really good version now with the digital release. But, I've had it now for well over a week, and that's all I've been listening to I think yesterday was the first day I actually went and listened to something different, and that's only because I had a friend in the car who was not a Depeche Mode fan.